wisdom are closed, except to the ears of understanding.
Okay, I'm just messing around. However, these words are key to this video. Today, we're going to be looking into the book, the Kybalion. The Kybalion is a Hermetic text that claims to be the master key to the occult. It takes the core concepts of New Age spiritualism and breaks it down into more practical ideas. Now, a lot of people, when they hear the word occult, immediately think of Satanism, black magic, but in reality, occult just means hidden. Modern interpretations have spun it to have a negative connotation, and now you can't hear the word occult without thinking of a Travis Scott concert. So today, we're going to go over what's seen as a starter book into esoteric and occult knowledge, so you can decide for yourself whether it's really evil or not. And the best part is, I read the whole thing, so you don't have to. Also, let me preface, I'm a devout Christian. I believe in Jesus Christ and the Trinity. And through this devotion, I have been drawn to find overlaps in spiritual teachings of all types, in search for the truth. So without further ado, let's get into the first chapter of the Kybalion. The book starts off by telling us that ancient Egypt was an epicenter of occult knowledge, and that many of our current standing spiritual and philosophical traditions come from ancient Egypt. Egypt was full of masters and adepts that offered these secrets as teachings, and upon these masters lied a master of all masters. His name was Hermes Trismegistus. Wait, no. Hermes Trismegistus. No, wait, what the fuck? Hermes Trismegistus. HT is credited for a lot in this chapter, everything from discovering astrology, bringing occult wisdom to the world, and creating alchemy. The book claims that HT's origins are unclear, but several countries around the world claim to be his true birthplace. It also claims that he lived over 300 years and was dubbed a god under the name Thoth by the Egyptians. Fast forward a few years, the Greeks also made him one of their gods, naming him Hermes, the god of wisdom. So that's where you get Hermes from, but what about Trismegistus? Well, it turns out the Egyptians were next level glazers, and this name was given to him by the Egyptians, and it roughly translates into thrice great, or the great great, or the greatest great.
95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 100, I did it!
Put the two together, and thus, Hermes Trismegistus was born. The Kybalion then goes on to explain that these teachings were adopted by what we know today as modern-day Christianity, but have lost their meanings through time and corruption. Those able to see past this facade, read deeper into the blurred lines, and have an impulse to seek the truth are called initiates. So, if that piques your curiosity, let's find out how it's truly done in the next few chapters. Before we start, the book goes deeper into some of these principles more than others, but in this chapter they give a quick breakdown of each of these rules, and so will I. Like the book, I'm also going to go deeper into more important ones, but also the ones that I find more interesting as well. If you want to know more about a specific one or a specific topic, I highly recommend you give the book a read. Okay, number 1, the principle of mentalism.
The all is mine, and the universe is mental.
Okay. This law is basically stating that the all, aka everything perceivable with your material senses and beyond, is made up of an incomprehensible spirit that is living and mental in origin. It's kind of confusing, but to put it simply, the all can be substituted for whatever divine being or concept you place as the origin of the universe. Whether it be the Big Bang, Brahman, or God, this law ascribes consciousness to that origin. And through that consciousness, all things in existence, and yes, even that thing you hide under your bed that you don't want your mom to find out about, was created and holds residence in the mind of the all. This is a preface to how mentalism works in our existence. If the creation of the universe is inherently mental, it suggests that everything else is as well, including how you live, how you feel, your overall reality, everything. Number 2. Principle of correspondence.
As above, so below. As below, so above.
Bro, what the hell is that? Anyways, this law is claimed to be one of the most important in understanding Hermetic philosophy. One thing I find interesting about these laws is how they build on one another. And by that I mean, this law, while expressing that your outer world is a reflection of your inner world, also expresses that the laws that govern the cosmos also apply to human experiences. Kinda similar to the first law, right? Ironically, despite this law being prefaced as the most important, it has the shortest description and is the most coded in this chapter, so we'll go more over it later. Alright, number 3, the principle of vibration. Okay, so in this
Everything moves. Everything vibrates.
the fuck? Who are you? What are you doing? Hey, dumbass! Get the fuck out!
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, I'll leave it.
Fucking, what the fuck? Alright, I have no clue who the fuck that was, but anyways, this principle stresses the fact that as modern science would have you believe, everything is in constant motion always. At a molecular level, we see atoms vibrating at different frequencies in everything. It was exclaimed in the Kybalion that this was common knowledge in ancient Egypt. However, to the ancient Egyptians, vibration was not something locked to only things that can be perceived with the senses, but also the mind and the spirit. It was believed that a Hermetic student who applied this rule correctly could conquer their mind, and in turn physical phenomena as well. Number 4, the principle of polarity. Oh yeah, I forgot I kicked him out. I guess I have to do this one. Everything is dual. Everything has poles. Everything has its opposite, like and unlike are the same. Opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree. All truths are but half-truths. This principle is one of my favorites. It explains that in everything there are two poles or opposite aspects. That opposites are really only two extremes of the same thing. An easy way to envision this is to think of a thermometer. Sometimes the thermometer will read very hot and sometimes it will read very cold. Despite being opposites to one another, they're both still temperatures at different degrees. There's no such thing as an absolute hot or absolute cold, only varying temperatures. Now apply this to literally everything and the whole world takes a turn. Love and hate, black and white, good and evil, all of these become varying degrees of passion, light, and order. Alright, number 5, the principle of rhythm. Everything flows, out and in, everything has its tides, all things rise and fall. The pendulum's swing manifests itself in everything. The measure of the swing to the right is the measure of the swing to the left. Rhythm compensates. This one might seem familiar to you all since it's been pounded into every child's head through public education and pop culture.
I could be of some assistance. Matter cannot be created or destroyed human. You have made a fatal error in judgment.
But it's basically the law of cause and effect. Every cause has an effect and every effect has a cause. What goes up must come down, yada yada yada. The Kybalion isn't really explaining this commonly known law as much as it is explaining that this law applies of course to the mind as well as everything else. Knowing they cannot always stay in a positive state of mind, a Hermeticist can avoid negative thought forms through neutralization. If that doesn't make sense, think of your mood/mental state as a pendulum. When the pendulum swings to the left, imagine that being your positive mood. And when it swings to the right, imagine that being your negative mood. Again, building from the last law, we see polarity. Every person's mental state fluctuates depending on outside stimuli.
This is how you eat a Big Mac, nigga. Cuz what the fuck? D, come on, son, on the set, son. Come on, son. Damn, son. Come on, cuz.
However, a Hermetic student who has mastered this law can consistently negate their pendulum from dwelling in or ever reaching the negative zone entirely.
This is how you eat a Big Mac, nigga.
It really sucks you just did that, but I can always buy another burger. Good day, sir.
Some people overlook this law as just emotional management, and on a basic level it is. However, mastery of this law will provide its practitioner unfathomable mental fortitude, which is big in the aspect of Hermetic philosophy that believes quite literally that all is mind. Okay, number 6, the principle of cause and effect. Every cause has its effect, every effect has its cause. everything happens according to law. Okay, I know I basically said the last one was similar to cause and effect, but this literally is cause and effect. The only distinction the Kybalion makes from the laws of cause and effect than what the average person may know is that it can be used to a person's advantage. A Hermeticist that is aware of this law is the cause of the things that happen in their life, rather than being obediently guided by the wills and desires of others stronger than themselves. Alright, final law. Number 7, the principle of gender. Gender is in everything. Everything has its masculine and feminine principle. This law is probably one of, if not the most important law of understanding Hermeticism. And I'm going to be completely honest, words can't really explain how deep this law goes until you truly understand it, but I'll try my best to break it down. The principle of gender is evident in all realms, mental, spiritual, and physical. While true, the principle of gender presents itself inherently in the physical realm as sex, it's not the only place we see it. The principle of gender is a forerunner to the principle of creation. I know I said there was only 7, which there are in the Kybalion, but there are more laws and rules that govern our world. The principle of creation, or generation, or the generative principle, is reliant on both poles of gender. These poles of gender can be thought of like this. In the higher realms, you have thought, which is inherently masculine. It's why we ascribe male characteristics to God, like All-Father or Father God. But on Earth, or the physical realm, you have the body, which is inherently feminine, and why we give Earth and nature female characteristics, like Mother Nature or Mother Earth. These two are reliant on each other to form a whole. Generation. Now, if that's confusing, don't feel bad. It kind of should be until you take information from multiple sources and find a commonality between all of them. This book does best at giving its reader an unveiling of deeper meanings that are present in the medias you already consume. Once you have even a small grasp on how these laws work, you won't be able to unsee them in your day-to-day life. This is separate from the Kybalion, but I think everyone should practice keeping their spiritual life and their physical life separate from each other. There's no reason that you can't bring things from your physical life and have them play parts into your spiritual, and vice versa. But remember, these two are different poles of each other that need to be practiced at different times of the day. They shouldn't interfere with each other. And by that I just mean, don't quit your day job because you want to become a spiritual monk, and don't, only work. Keep a balance between everything, and make sure you're staying sane and not following schizophrenic signals in everything you see. This is about improving yourself, nothing more. Alright, we got a little serious there, and I kind of forgot to throw in some jokes, so, okay. Here, let's watch some TikToks. Alright, that's enough of that. Let's go to the next chapter. As the title of this chapter would have you believe, this chapter is about the transmutation of mental faculties. Transmutation is used to define the transformation of metals in the ancient art of alchemy. This chapter goes slightly deeper into the first law, reiterating that if the universe is inherently mental, then the ability to which someone can transform mental conditions renders the master not only the controller of the mental world, but the material as well. The Kybalion claims that masters of mental transmutation have the faculties to control everything from elements of nature to creating geographical disasters. It also claims that advanced members of occult societies today believe that these people not only existed, but still do to this day. The reason the Kybalion brings attention to these supernatural-like beings is not to deify them or give a goal to aim towards, but to highlight that even when mental powers reach a fortitude to which they can affect the physical plane in supernatural ways, the origin of their immense power is still mental. This idea obviously is missed by the general person, but even so does the modern Hermeticist misunderstand that not only are they able to change their own mental state, but those of others, with the use of Hermetic principles. The Kybalion points this out not to encourage practice of this, but to make the reader aware of their ignorance. Imagine you're using your laptop every day, typing documents, browsing the web, living your normal digital life. You don't believe that there's anything more to the machine than what you can see on the screen, but underneath, the operating system is constantly running processes you never look at. Most of them are harmless, but some of them could be tracking you, shaping your experience, or limiting what you can do. And you'd never notice unless you knew how to read the code. You still get your work done. You live your entire digital life normally, but unseen processes could be influencing things in the background without your awareness or belief in them. In other words, you don't need to believe in the hidden processes for them to exist or affect you. You'll still live your whole life using the device, but if you ignore the possibility entirely, you're vulnerable to whatever is running underneath the surface. Under and behind all outward appearances or manifestations must always be a substantial reality. This chapter begins by prefacing that nothing really is fixed, nothing really is, and instead, everything is becoming. Everything is either being born, growing, or dying. Once something reaches its peak, it begins to decline. The law of rhythm is seen in all things around you. The only thing permanent in this world is change. The Kybalion states that a thinking man realizes all of these changes in reality must be the manifestation of some underlying power, some sort of substantial reality. Throughout all of history, philosophies around the entire earth have called this substantial reality many things. The infinite, eternal energy. Some even call it matter. Whether you imbue intelligence to it or not, what should be obvious to any honest person is that it exists. The Hermetics dub this substantial reality as the All. Hermetics believe the inner nature of the All is unknowable and will forever remain unknowable to the mortal man. Our ego, or sense of individuality, leads man to ignorantly ascribe human emotions, feelings, and characteristics to the All. The Hermetics see religion as the intuitional realization of the All and their relationship to it. However, because the Hermetics don't believe that any mortal attributes can be imbued upon the All, they steer clear from theosophy and metaphysics. Alright, this is a side note. At the point of recording this, I had a little head scratcher moment when reading this part of the Kybalion, only because the book itself, at least to me so far, is somewhat theosophical and has some metaphysical parts to it. But I think this part of the Kybalion is basically piping itself up saying, hey, this is the real deal and we mean everything literally. Okay, next the Kybalion gives us laws for the All. Bars. Rule number 1. The All must be all that really is. This one makes sense since if there is something outside of the All, then the All isn't really the All. Rule number 2. The All must be infinite. If the All has a creator or cause, then it's not the All. Therefore, the All must have always existed and must always exist. Okay, rule number 3. The All must be immutable. Basically saying that for it to be eternal, it must not be subject to change, and that it is a perfect entity. For if something outside the All could change it, it would break the previous 2 rules. Ending this chapter, the Kybalion refutes materialistic claims to universal origin. When we look around, we see matter everywhere. Is the All just matter? Well, no. Matter itself does not have the means to create life or consciousness, and since these are present in our world and nothing rises higher than its own source, the All cannot be matter. What that essentially means is that an effect cannot and has never been more evolved than its cause, at least not in an ontological and therefore substantial sense. I think most of us can agree that we are greater in the evolutionary line than a rock. The Kybalion also reiterates the law of vibration, saying that what we call matter, even by modern science interpretations, is really just energy or force at a low rate of vibration. So is the All just energy or force? It is, but not the same energy or force that a materialist believes in. A materialist force and energy is blind and mechanical, absent of life and mind. Like previously stated, nothing in ontological and substantial reality has ever had a more evolved effect from its cause. Nothing can rise higher than its source. It's a beautiful revelation, really. Through science, one can find pretty damning proof of intelligent design in our universe. Before we go on to the next chapter, the Kybalion acknowledges some of the contradictions with the rules ascribed to the All, and is ensuring the reader that in no way is it trying to indoctrinate us into Christianity under the guise of Hermeticism. Speaking of the contradictions in the last chapter, the Kybalion almost makes it sound like the universe and the all are synonymous. But this chapter makes a clear distinction. The universe and the all can't be the same thing, because the universe is made up of things that are constantly changing, which breaches the third rule of the all. So if the all isn't the universe, then what is it? And how was the universe made? Well, the Kybalion notes the principle of correspondence is useful in this thought experiment. As above, so below. Through this Hermetic axiom, we can learn more about the planes of higher existence through examining our own. The Kybalion uses man as an example on how creation is actually created. It offers the use of outside materials as a form of creation, but rejects this as being applicable to the all because if we remember our rules for the all, there's nothing outside of it. It offers another form of creation through reproduction, self-multiplying by offering a portion of oneself to its offspring. But this also doesn't work, because the all cannot subtract a portion of itself or multiply itself, because again, both a change in the all and addition or subtraction just don't fall within the rules. So if not through outside materials and not reproduction, what other way can man create? Well, through thought. Mental creation uses no outside materials and doesn't come at the cost of any parts of oneself. The same way you can create a universe of your own in your mind, so does the all. The main difference being that our minds are finite, while the all's mind is not. While similar in mechanism, the two are infinitely different in ability. While the universe is not, still it is. The law of paradox is an aspect of the law of polarity. Hermetic teachers constantly remind their students to be wary of the law of paradox in relation to the absolute and the relative. The problems presented by the divine paradox causes many to think and act contrary to common sense and lose themselves in half-truths. When contemplating the reality of the universe being a mental creation, some people begin to see the world as an illusion or fake, which is a fair conclusion to come to. However, when contemplating the universe, one must consider the absolute and relative point of view. From the absolute viewpoint, the world is a dream, illusion, or quote-unquote fake when compared to the all. No matter what your actual beliefs are, the nature of the world gives way to nihilism. From a completely materialistic perspective, you're born and then you die. And so too will everything else. If the all is the only thing that is actually real, does anything even matter? The absolute point of view only shows one side of the picture. Its counterpart is relative truth. Despite the world being a dream to the all, to the mortal/finite man that are part of the dream and perceiving it with mortal senses, the universe is absolutely real. The Kybalion in previous chapters made an effort to differentiate the universe from the all, to get rid of the notion that if the all is the universe, then you are too. We have to remember the fact that just because to the all, the universe is quote-unquote fake, doesn't mean it is to us. We, me, and you are not God. I know this chapter is somewhat repetitive so far, but just stick with me. The Kybalion goes on to explain that this world is very real indeed. Only through a rise in consciousness does the illusionary nature of the world begin to reveal itself. And only once the all withdraws us into itself will the illusion vanish completely. Knowing this, it's best to acknowledge the validity of the reality we currently live in and use its laws towards upwards progression. Like I said in the beginning of this video, the Kybalion does go deep into certain areas of philosophy and spiritual sciences that I think can get a bit repetitive and boring, this chapter being one of them. But here are some ideas that I think are interesting that we can quickly go over. The Kybalion believes there's a hierarchy of life and that mortals are not at the summit. It doesn't go deep into them in this chapter, but it emphasizes that the all stands at the very top, of course, and humans would be a few tiers lower, with beings I presume to be supernatural beings we see prevalent in religions across the world, for example, angels, demons, spirits. The Kybalion's point of bringing up these powerful supernatural beings is to emphasize that even these beings, whose abilities supersede even the most powerful of men, are bound by the laws of the universe, and thus the all. Knowing this, man shouldn't overestimate his status in, or underestimate the validity of reality just because he's become aware of the illusionary nature of the world. The true nature of the world, that being all is mental, does not invalidate science either. In fact, the two corroborate each other. The Kybalion cites Herbert Spencer, a famous 19th century Darwinist, as someone whose scientific views align almost completely with Hermetic philosophy. I say almost because the only difference between the two philosophies is that modern science believes the world is material/energetic in nature, while Hermetic philosophies believe it is mental in nature. The Kybalion states once this veil of nature is lifted from the materialists, answers to the questions that they seek that can't be explained with modern science are quickly answered. A belief of mental nature in the world is the bridge that connects spiritual and materialistic sciences. I want to end this chapter with a quote from the Kybalion. We do not live in a world of dreams, but in a universe which, while relative, is real so far as our lives and actions are concerned. Our business in the universe is not to deny its existence, but to live using the laws to rise from lower to higher. Living on, doing the best we can under the circumstances arising each day. And living, so far as possible, to our highest ideas and ideals. Okay, so this isn't the end of the book, but this is the end of the video. The reason I'm not going to cover the rest of the chapters is because the remainder of the book goes deeper into the aspects of the all and all of the 7 principles that, again, are a bit repetitive but do share a lot of knowledge. If you found this video interesting at all, I highly recommend you give the Kybalion a read. I want to thank everyone for watching this video and ask if you enjoyed, please like and comment. It really helps me out. And to give back to you, I'm giving the first 5 people who follow me on TikTok and Instagram and DM me mental $10 as a Merry Christmas gift and a thank you for actually taking the time to watch my video. I'm going to be dropping the rest of Dante's Inferno next, and then probably the rest of the entire Divine Comedy after that. So if you're looking forward to that, subscribe and check out my first video I dropped on the first part of the Inferno. Thanks for watching. Bye!